Virtual summits are the most powerful online marketing tool available to grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and create an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. If you are ready to take your summit to the next level, then tune into the Virtual Summit Podcast with Dr. Mark T. Wade.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, founder of Virtual Summit Software and creator of the One Day Summit Formula. And I'm on a mission to help you, the summit host, get your summit out to the world in a powerful and impactful way. So let's get started. What's the one question to ensure you don't get screwed by a virtual summit consultant? Plus, how to remove 90% of the time needed to build out a summit with one single solution. Hi, I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, founder of Virtual Summit Software, creator of the One Day Summit Formula, and your host on the Virtual Summit Podcast. I am super excited about this episode today because we are going to be talking about something extremely important, especially if you're considering building out a virtual summit. And even more importantly, if you're thinking about building out your first virtual summit. So you're going to want to stay here with us till the end. Now, before we do that, if you're just joining us, if this is your first experience with the Virtual Summit Podcast, I would highly recommend going and checking out episode 1 so you can understand exactly how to get the most out of this, where you're going to be able to find all the resources, who am I, as well as what's the best way to consume this information. Now, for those of you who are going to be looking for the links, the information, all of the resources we're going to be talking about in this episode, you can get all of that information over at the show notes, podcast.virtualsummits.com/4. So that's going to be where all the links, all the information, all the show notes are going to be hosted over at podcast.virtualsummits.com/4. Now, this is going to be a little bit longer of an episode than normal, but it could possibly be one of the most valuable episodes I record and that you listen to. We're going to be talking specifically about the different ways you can build out your summit, what that looks like, and how to avoid complete disasters. And I promise you, complete disasters happen regularly. So this information is going to help you prevent that. Again, this could be one of the most valuable episodes that you listen to. So be sure to stay with me to the end. It's an episode you'll want to listen there because we are going to be talking about how to save you over 90% of your time and how to avoid, one, getting screwed by consultants and the best way to set things up. So let's jump right into it. Okay. We're going to be talking specifically about 4 ways that you could end up building out your virtual summit. And we're going to go in these in depth. I'm going to let you know what to expect. I'm going to tell you the benefits, the negatives, where you're at in your virtual summit journey, on which of these is probably the best option and maybe not the best option for you. So we're going to get really in depth on this and it's going to be really great. So the 4 ways that we're going to cover in today's episode is the first one, pay someone else to build it. The second option is build it custom yourself using something like WordPress. The third option is using a generic tool or software to build it out on, kind of like ClickFunnels, Kajabi, or Thinkific. And the fourth option is going to be the Virtual Summit software, which makes hosting a summit easier than ever before. Now, don't jump to conclusions here. Obviously, Virtual Summit software is going to be an amazing tool for you to use to build out your summit, but it also depends on what you're looking for. What is your objective? What are your expectations? So all 4 of these options are good for certain specific objectives, and we're going to talk through that. So let's not jump to conclusions here. Having someone else build it for you may be the best option for you, and if so, we're going to talk about what the things you specifically need to know before you walk into that agreement. Now, just to cover the basics or the physical components of a summit, so you understand what this is. And I'm going to be talking to you here as if you've not done this before. So if you're one of my summit hosts that's already done a couple summits, this may sound familiar to you, but I can promise you, myself, having hosted over 25 summits, still every time I learn from some other host or speaker who's done a summit, I still learn something new. So let's stay in it and let's have a student of the game type of mindset. So the physical components of a summit, we're going to have a landing page. You're going to have a thank you and then upsell page. You're going to have your summit homepage. So this is going to be inside the actual live summit. Then you're going to have your individual speaker pages. Now, you're going to have a speaker page for every single speaker. So if you have 40 speakers, you're going to have 40 speaker pages. You're going to have a bonus or a gifts page, and then you're going to have a sponsor or resources page. Of course, you're going to have a sales page, and then a thank you page. And then some additional aspects, you may have a frequently asked questions page, a support page, or a help desk or a contact page, and potentially a group area for group conversation. And then you also may additionally have upsell pages after your sales pages. So those are kind of additional aspects that are not necessarily standard on every single one. But just again, you're going to have a landing page, a summit landing page. You're going to have a summit thank you page or an upsell page. You've got your home page for your actual live summit, individual speaker pages, a bonus or gifts page, a sponsors and resources page, and then you're also going to have a sales page and then a thank you page. Now, additional aspects, you may have a frequently asked questions page, a sort page, help desk, contact page, something to give people some help if they need it during your summit, and then possibly a group area page. So those are additionals. Now let's have a quick word from our sponsor.
Virtual Summit's software makes hosting a summit easier than ever. The only software in the world designed specifically for hosting a summit lets you set up a summit in a matter of hours with no tech skill or team needed. You can try out the Virtual Summit's software free at virtualsummits.com. But hurry, this is a limited offer.
All right, so first off, before we get into the actual, specifics of these 4 ways of building out your summit, I think it's super important to understand, because we're going to be talking about this throughout the entire podcast. We're going to be interviewing summit hosts, summit speakers, summit sponsors. We're also going to be interviewing summit coaches and summit consultants. So it's important to understand what's the difference between a summit coach and a summit consultant, because we're going to be talking specifically about consultants in this episode. So just to understand the difference, a coach, a virtual summit coach, typically sells an online program that gives you information on how you can host your summit. So for example, it's going to be an online course that you take, and it takes you through step by step. Here's how you build out your strategy. Here's how you would create your email campaigns. Here's how you would recruit sponsors. So they're going to give you all the information, but it's pretty much a completely do-it-yourself. You consume the course and then you put it into action. They typically don't do anything with you or your summit other than give you the online training and sometimes ongoing answers to your questions. But they're not going to go in and build it. They're not going to go in and help you create any of it. They're just giving you the information. So you still have to build it all yourself. Now, consultants, virtual summit consultants, on the other hand, typically they create most of your summit platform for you, and then they're going to be responsible usually for running the summit. Now, they typically don't do anything outside of creating the summit platform and then the live summit tech support. So they're not in the marketing side. They're not in the speaker recruitment or interview side of it. They're specifically going to build out your summit and then be there for the kind of tech support that happens or is needed. So coaches are going to be much less expensive as you're just paying for the program and no assistance. Now, consultants are going to be much more expensive depending on the caliber of consultant. So let's jump into it. So the first option on building out your summit, creating your summit that we're going to cover is paying someone else to build it. So this is going to be like a summit consultant. Now, I only really recommend this if you have disposable resources or you've done successful summits in the past and you know your conversions and you can make it profitable. Now, the reason for that is this is going to be an investment. And again, summit consultants aren't going to typically be responsible for making your summit successful. They're just going to be there to set it up for you. Now, if you know what you can convert and know what you can make, especially like on the back end of a summit, this may be the best solution for you because somebody else can just build it out and you have it all done and you just run the summit. Now, if you have a chunk of money set aside and you really just don't want to do the work yourself, this could also be a good option. However, I don't really recommend it unless you've done at least one summit before, so you understand the process. Also, that way you can hold the consultant, you can hold them accountable for what they're building, what they're doing, and you'll have a better idea of how you want it done. Because a lot of times that summit consultant is going to be asking you how you want it set up, and they're going to build it around your preferences. So let's look at what the process looks like. So the process with a virtual summit consultant is you're going to find that consultant. They're going to probably do some type of in-depth consultation with you to understand like what you want, what you're looking for, when you're looking to launch your summit. They'll tell you the amount you need to pay them, and then you essentially agree to it. They handle most of the heavy lifting as far as building out the site, usually with a prepackaged kind of template that they've created and used for other summits, although they will still customize it, usually specifically to you, so it doesn't look like the other ones. You're still going to have to do all of the speaker, affiliate, sponsor, recruiting, management. You're still going to have to do all the interviews. You're still going to be essentially responsible for everything outside of building out the summit. So you're going to have to still also pay typically for all the materials that are being built. So essentially, this is a common confusion, is you're going to pay your consultant, your summit consultant, and then any additional materials that they're going to need to build it out, you're still going to have to pay for those. Now, a lot of times they'll be able to find a way to kind of get you a free trial on a lot of the materials. So we're talking about either plugins, online tools or softwares, things like that. So you're not going to feel that expense necessarily at the beginning. And then they're going to help guide you and advise you on insights into the marketing and launching, but they're not going to be responsible or do that. It's just the fact that they have done this and run these before, so they can kind of give you guidance and let you know what you should be doing and what it should look at, but they're not going to take responsibility for the success of that. So you're going to have to create all the marketing materials, the ads, the email copy, and you'll still be responsible for doing the advertising, like if you're going to do any Facebook ads or things like that. They're going to handle any of the technical aspects that arises during the summit. So any tech issues or things that happen. And then once the summit ends, your arrangement is essentially finished and they're done. And then you're still going to have to pay those monthly fees for all the additional materials that they used to build out the summit. So you're going to essentially be paying monthly fees for all the different softwares and things that they use, which is typically generating them affiliate commissions because they have affiliate links for all the softwares that they're going to use. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just important that you understand so that you can be diligent in the tools that are being used, because the summit consultant is going to be generating income for them through these. So they may have a vested interest in using certain tools or softwares or plugins over other ones where you could potentially lower your expenses by using different tools. So that's just something to keep in mind. So how long does this process take? Typically, a summit consultant can get most of the summit up and built within 2 to 3 months. I mean, that's kind of the longer term. Now, if they got the ability to work on it full time, they can probably get it done in a month, maybe 2 months. So you're looking at anywhere from about a month to 3 months, depending on their availability to work on your summit and also probably on your demand or need for it to be done. Now, however, you're still going to need a couple months, anywhere from 2 to 4 months for speaker recruitment and interviews, marketing creation. So in total, you could most likely launch your summit within 3 months based on the speed of your speaker recruitment. So that's not bad. 90 days is pretty fast. Like that's usually the fastest we would recommend to do a summit, but that usually can happen when using a summit consultant because they're handling all of the creation of your summit and you can just focus on the interviews and the marketing and things like that. Now, how much does it cost? Well, most good summit consultants are going to be between $7,000 and $10,000. And that's just because it isn't a good amount of time. They have a specialized knowledge into a specific niche. So you're looking at about $7,000 to $10,000 for a good consultant. Now, there are high-end consultants in specialty niches. Those can be upwards of $35,000 to $50,000. I've seen some even at $75,000. But a lot of them, specifically if it's going to be like lower, like $35,000, These are going to require some kind of profit sharing from the earnings of the summit. But again, the higher up the expense goes or the cost goes, usually they're going to take on more responsibility for the success of the summit, as well as they're going to also want some of the profit share just because they're going to know they're going to get you a successful result. Any kind of consultant below $3,000 that's willing to build out your summit, like completely, are most likely less experienced or not real high quality. Now, you could potentially find a hidden gem in the rough there, but you just on a normal basis, below $3,000 for a summit consultant to build out all of your summit, like they're probably just getting started. They don't have the confidence to charge what they should, and they probably don't have the experience to charge more than that. So just know that going into it. You kind of get what you pay for, and going cheaper is definitely not always better in the summit world. So what are some of the downsides? Obvious downsides are going to be the costs. Summits typically don't have huge profit margins from the summit, So you're going to be spending money, but not necessarily making a ton of money. Like in a lot of other areas, like when you spend a bunch of money, you typically increase your revenue or returns. This is not exactly how it will work with summits. Now, most profit comes, and the reason for that is most of your profit comes from your post-summit income. And you can go and check out episode 3 for more information on that. We covered that more in depth there. But your actual summit is typically going to be more like a self-liquidating offer, not necessarily where you're generating your revenue. So when you're paying out a lot of money to build your summit, you're decreasing your ability to take home the cash because you're increasing your margins significantly. And 2, you're increasing the risk of actually losing money if your summit doesn't do well. And this is a very plausible possibility because it really depends on your knowledge, your success, your skill level, your ability to recruit great speakers, get them to actually be on your side and promote it, your marketing capacities, et cetera, et cetera. So if this is your first summit, and again, this is another reason I don't necessarily recommend consultants on your first summit, is because if it's your first summit, there's a highly likelihood that you're potentially going to not get the maximum results that you will on your second, third, fourth, fifth type of summit, okay? So if you don't do well, you're still going to be responsible for that payment or be out that money, so you have a higher risk of actually losing money. So that's another downside. Consultants will typically remove themselves from the direct relationship of the success of the summit, mainly because they can't guarantee the success and then they don't want to be held responsible. I don't necessarily think that's a great thing, but it's just the reality of it. So they're only going to take responsibility for the creation of the structure, not whether that summit actually succeeds and makes X amount of leads or X amount of income. So that technically means you're ultimately still solely responsible for the success. This is also why I typically don't recommend consultants for your first summit. I think they're a great opportunity after you know you can generate results and you know kind of your numbers and expected outcomes. But before then, you're really running a risk of paying a lot of money and ultimately not making it back. So the ultimate downside is really just the financial costs and the risk. If these are non-issues for you, either because you have disposable finances or you're pretty confident in your ability to create success, then this is probably a great option. So what are the upsides? Well, one, you don't have to do any of the work building the summit. I mean, that's a huge upside because that's a huge undertaking and a decent amount of money. And honestly, it's probably going to look much better if they create it than you create it. And that's coming from personal experience. It also, another upside, it allows you to move much quicker in launching your summit. If you're going to be building it out yourself, you're looking at, months of actual work of you building it out. And that's taking time away from you working on the promotional aspect, on speaker research, on speaker recruitment, on the interviews. So it's going to take you longer to do it. And if you're doing it on your own, and if you have a summit consultant, you're going to be able to move much quicker because while you're doing your speaker research and interviews, they're building out the summit. So you're essentially having two things done at once. You're going to have someone with experience that can help guide you, which is always good. Having somebody that has insight into it that can help guide you along the way. This will also allow you to kind of stay in your zone of genius, so someone else can handle the technical aspect while you're really doing what you're good at. And then you have someone to turn to if something goes wrong or if you have questions. So if you're building out summits on your own, you could be, and you don't have anybody else like a coach or, somebody else you can ask, then, it can feel kind of like, what do I do? Like something's going to happen. You may have some confusions or questions and not really have anyone to turn to. Okay, now this next aspect is super important and super valuable for you. So what should you know or ask? Now, this probably is going to be the most important aspect of the hiring a consultant aspect, and it's what I use and what I would recommend. So before you ever agree to pay anything with a consultant, here are the things you should know and ask. 1, how many summits have you run before? And please provide some examples. So it's so important. Do your research. Reach out to these summits that they tell you and ask the hosts about their experience. I mean, this could save you from an ultimate disaster in the long run. Because honestly, if they're a good consultant, they will have done multiple summits before. They should be able to provide you with examples of those. And then it's always good to ask the summit host. I'm telling you, I've interviewed some consultants before, which gave me fake summits. They've told me summits that they didn't actually run. And then they did give me some summits that they ran. And when I asked the summit host about them, like they said their results were not great or their experience wasn't great, etc. Now, a good summit consultants will have no problem telling you this and even putting you in touch with the host because they get good results and they get good experiences and results for their clients. So a good summit consultant, they're like, absolutely, go talk to my past hosts. Summit consultants that haven't gotten good results or that don't provide good experiences, they're going to be very hesitant to do this, or they're probably going to lie to you about it. So always do your research. Don't just take it at face value either. Just because they said, oh, I did this summit and I made this amount, don't just take it like that. Go find the host and check. I think this would be a great opportunity to give a shout out to our sponsor, Virtual Summit Software.
Be sure to check out the speaker management tool inside your Virtual Summit software, which lets you quickly and easily recruit and manage your speakers on your virtual summit, literally eliminating hundreds of hours of work. Get more information at virtualsummit.com.
So if they've run less than 5 summits, they're newer and more risk. Now, it doesn't mean they can't be good, especially if they're at like 4 or 5. Doesn't mean they are not a good opportunity. You just really need to look into it and really do your research on this and make sure it's a good fit. But if they've done less than 5, they're still on my standards, just kind of getting started, especially if you're running somebody's summit for them. 5 summits, if maybe they've ran more summits and then they've helped other people, that's different. But like if they've only been involved in 5 summits, that's a newbie. If they've run more than 10 summits, that's an experienced consultant. Anything over 25 summits is a well-experienced consultant. So that's kind of thing. 5 is a newbie. 10 is kind of like they know what they're doing. Over 25 is a well-experienced consultant. So next question. What are the average results you typically get from your summits? Now, if they can't give you an estimate or an average, that means they haven't generated any decent results. So like you're going to ask them like, what are your typical results? I know you can't tell me for sure you're going to do this, and they're going to really try and run circles around that question, but they should be able to say, well, on average, most of our summits do over 10,000 leads. We've had one that did 35,000 leads, and we've had one that's done 3,000 leads. Especially if they're a good consultant, they're not going to be afraid of the bad results they've had because they're going to have learned from that and know why it was bad and be able to tell you why they got those results. And they also have plenty of other experiences or examples where they've gotten great results. People that don't, and I would actually probably add an extra to this, is what are your typical results? What was your best and what was your worst? Now, if they don't give you a legitimate worst, or if they say, oh, our typical results are like 10,000, and really we had one that did like 9,000. Like if they don't give you one that's bombed, They're probably lying, honestly. But find out what summits they got good results with, and check with those hosts. If they won't tell you tell you about their summits, then honestly, like I just said, they're lying. So run. Always confirm with the summit host as well. And many consultants are going to exaggerate their results, which is why you really need to check with the host to find the real answers. But they should be able to give you, again, typical results or average results. I mean, they've worked on these summits. They know what they got from those summits. And if they won't tell you, it's because they didn't get good results. Next question. When was the last summit that you helped create? So if it's been more than a few years, honestly, it's a red flag, because it probably means this is not like their main expertise or their main thing that they're doing. So they're probably just trying to like tack this on all of a sudden. Maybe they saw you coming, they're like, oh, I can throw this on and generate some revenue, some extra income. So if it's been a few years, that's not their full-time gig, or at least it's not a main gig. So I would look at that as a big red flag. Now, it's not uncommon for summit consultants to only do a couple a quarter, but if this is their general, like to have a certain capacity, but if this is one of their main expertises, which is what I would be looking for, is somebody who, like, this is what they do, they're running at least one a quarter or more. So they shouldn't be like, oh, it's been 2 years. Next question. When did you learn to create summits? Or excuse me, where did you learn to create summits? So this is more in relation to the very first question we had. Like, so if they have minimal experience, you don't have to necessarily rule them out right away, especially if they're like at 4 or 5 summits. You can ask them how they learned to run a summit. How do they know how to run a summit? Like if they've had training, like if they've done programs, courses, you can get more information on how they've learned to do this. That's great. But if not, they're just kind of guessing, and then they're gambling with your money. They're like, oh, I haven't done any official training. I've ran a couple summits, which that gives me the experience, which is cool. But, if this is your main thing and you're helping people create summits, they should be a student of the game and constantly learning. So I'm not saying they have to have had formal training, but if they have low experience, like if they haven't ran many summits, you're going to want to at least see that. Next question, what exactly are you going to do and what are you not going to do? So this is such an important question, and it's always very important to have this in writing, exactly what they are responsible for doing and not doing, to hold them accountable. This should be done before you pay anything, okay? Afterwards, like if you ask them this after you've paid, they're going to opt out of doing more work, right? They're going to be like, oh no, I don't handle the technical support. I just build it, and then you got to do everything on running it. No, you want to ask them this before you sign or pay anything, because that's when they're going to agree to do more. Also, this is just good to know and be aware of what you're going to need to be ready to do, because like I said earlier in this episode, most summit consultants are not going to do like the marketing or speaker recruitment. And if you're going into it thinking that they're going to do this, this, and this, but they know they're not going to do it, you guys are going to be set up for failure from the beginning. So it's always extremely important to map out exactly what's going to be done before you pay, and then agree on it. If you're cool with what they're going to do and you guys have decided that that's okay, then cool. Now you're ready to go, but at least you have it in writing and you know. Next question, what happens if for some reason this summit bombs? Now, this is a tough question that no one wants to ask, but honestly is something that needs to be talked about before you enter in an agreement with a summit consultant. Like, what happens in the worst case scenario? Most time people don't talk about it. They're just the consultants talking about the pipe dream. Here's what we're going for. We're going for, 100,000 leads and $500,000, and you get all excited because that's what you want. But what happens when it doesn't happen? So are they holding any of the responsibility for this summit to perform well? That's why you want to ask, like, what happens if it bombs? Like, if they have no responsibility, then all that risk is on your shoulders. And honestly, what's there to motivate them to actually make it perform well? They don't care. They just do what they have to do, and then boom, it's on you. Now, they should be willing to at least provide some guidelines and agreeables to what is a successful summit, an okay summit, and what a bomb or bad summit is. So you guys need to decide on that. Like, 100,000 leads is not just a great summit. Like, that's an out of the ballpark type of summit. Less than probably 10% of summits, probably even less than that, probably less than 5% of summits are going to do 100,000 leads. It's the reality of it. Now, that's not a bad thing, because summits that only generate 2,000 leads can still make 6 figures or more. But you guys need to decide and determine together, what is a successful summit look like? So they know, also because they need to know what your expectations are, so they can, have an idea what they're shooting for. Maybe for them, a 5,000 or 10,000 lead summit is a success, and you're shooting for 50,000. Talk about like what's an okay, like if we just hit this, it's not my ultimate goal, but I'd be at least happy doing this. And if it does less than 5,000 leads, in my opinion, and this is, you guys would decide on this. I'm not saying this is my opinion. I'm just saying, when you have this decision with them, you guys will decide together that if it's less than this amount, it's considered a bomb. Then, like, are they like, and should they offer some, like, at this point, we need to offer some kind of peace of mind, or they should be offering a peace of mind. Like, do they have a little skin in the game? So, when you decide on this, what happens if it bombs? Like, what are they willing to do? Like, you're going to do everything you can do. Like, they should be able to do something as well. And of course, they're not going to be responsible no matter what. They're not, and this is just a reality you, the summit host, needs to understand going into an agreement with a consultant. They are not 100% responsible for the success of your summit. They're not even 50% responsible in most cases. And I'm not saying because they won't agree to it. I'm just saying summit consultants, like, the success of a summit is pretty much going to fall on your shoulders and your ability to recruit great speakers, get those speakers to come on board and 100% want to promote you and actually follow through with promoting you, and that your summit topic is original and narrowed down. All the things that go into it, a lot of that is your responsibility. They can build out a great summit and they can give you insights and they can help you, but a lot of that responsibility is going to fall on your shoulders. So that is super important for you to know. But at the same time, if it bombs, are they going to offer any kind of solution to that? Like, so you should have some kind of peace of mind that if it completely bombs, somehow, some way, they're going to take a little responsibility for that. Now, I wouldn't expect them to offer refunds or anything like that. That's just unreasonable, and it's not going to happen. So again, I'm having real talk with you right here. If you don't like the answers to this, this is reality and generally how it's going to be. I just want you, the summit host, to get the most success and know what you're walking into. Like, my goal is to help you. So the last question, which is also like, it ties into the question we just talked about, but will you allow me to pay you partially up front and the rest of the payment from the result of the summit? So this is the summit consultant is going to have a fee. Let's say that fee is $10,000. And they're going to build out your summit over the course of, let's say, like your summit's going to launch 4 months from now. Let's just say that. And so they're probably going to give you a payment plan. They're going to ask for most of it or more of it up front. So let's say you pay, $4,000 up front or $3,000 up front. You'll end up having a payment plan usually for the rest of that. So month 2, you'll pay some, month 3, you'll pay some, and then month 4, you'll typically, the way they will set this up is pay the rest of it, and then the summit will launch. Now, what I would highly recommend is you coming to an agreement where you can pay, let's say, and this is probably a realistic or reasonable offering, but like 75% of their consultant costs before the summit, and then 25% of your costs can come from the results of the summit. So this right here is going to be a huge tell. Like, if they're confident about their abilities to help your summit be successful, and they know that they've got a history of getting successful summits, then they can at least put some of that amount, even if a tiny amount, like I said, 25%, but like even 10% or 20% or, upwards of 50% would be ideal. I mean, that's going to be highly unlikely, but if you can put a percent of your payment to be taken out of the results or the profits of the summit, then you're dealing with a professional. Because people that are not confident, consultants that are not confident in what they can do, are going to say no way. So that should be a red flag right there. It doesn't necessarily mean it's got to be a deal breaker, but just know what, where they stand. So if they're completely 100% against this and don't even at least consider it, then watch out. because that means they already believe that your summit isn't going to do well. And if they don't think it's going to do well, you really don't want them consulting for you. So another option with this, which could be beneficial, especially if finances up front are an issue for you, you could always make kind of an agreement. Let me put 25% of the payment of your payment, Mr. Consultant, from the success or results of the summit. And then you could give them a rev share, and we'll give you 1% of the profits or 10% of the profits or whatever. A consultant that knows they can get results, that's an amazing deal for them, because they know they're going to get paid, and they know then that they're going to get paid even more because they're going to help you do a successful summit, and they're going to generate revenue from that. So those are the super important questions that you need to ask before you ever sign or agree anything. And again, these will be over at the show notes at podcast.virtualsummits.com/4. Now, again, just to recap those questions: how many summits have you run before? Please provide some examples. What are the average results you typically get from your summits? When was the last summit you helped create? Where did you learn to create summits? What exactly are you going to do and not do for my summit? What happens if this summit bombs? And what will you allow me to pay you partially up front and the rest from the results of the summits? Cool. So how do you get started if this is the option you want to do? So the easiest way is to go over to our resources area at virtualsummits.com, and you can see a list of our approved consultants that we vetted and we recommend. If you're a consultant listening to this and want us to check you out, then get in touch with us. We'd be happy to check you out. And if you are high caliber, high quality, then we'd be happy to recommend you. So you can head over virtualsummits.com, check out on our resource area our approved consultants. Additionally, you can reach out to our team and see if you qualify for our Virtual Summits immersion programs. We typically only work with clients we know we can generate great results with. And we definitely take responsibility for the success of our client summits, but we also have limited number of spots we work with with summit hosts each quarter. So you can send us a request for more information if you'd like to have us look at working and consulting for your summit. You can do that at the email info@virtualsummits.com. Just request more information on our Virtual Summits immersion program. Again, that's info@virtualsummits.com. All of this information is in the show notes over at podcast.virtualsummits.com/4. And we'd love to either get you paired up with somebody that fits and works for you, or if you're a great fit for us, we'd happily work with you to help you get to the next level. So moving forward, next option. So that was hiring a consultant to build it out for you. Option number 2 is build it custom yourself. And this is going to be specifically like along the lines of WordPress or developing, like coding this out. So WordPress, obviously you don't have to have codes, or you don't need to be a developer. If you are a developer, you're probably just going to want to code it on something like WordPress or something similar. So this will be a much shorter version to go through, because this is only for the bravest of entrepreneurs. Again, it's not going to be one that I recommend at all. So this is really for ones that have either great knowledge and skill in building websites, landing page development, all those things like that, have great tech skills, or have a lot of experience in creating items from scratch using WordPress. So most likely the entrepreneurs like myself that were out there creating things, like creating before things like ClickFunnels and Kajabi and Thinkific were around. Like now you have that, people being able to build and stuff on WordPress is definitely dropped. So I just want to reiterate, this is not what I would recommend. There's better options unless you are a developer or great knowledge and skill at that. And really we're going to go through why, but like this is really only for those that just want the most customization possible. If you are a customization fanatic, then this is probably going to be your option, because anything else is going to have certain standards or templates. All right, so what's the process look like? So you're going to map out what you want your summit to look like. First off, you always start with that. Like, don't just start building. Never start building. If you're doing this, you already know it. But map out your summit. What's it going to look like? How many pages? How many speaker pages? What are your color schemes, your fonts? Any special items, funnels, mean, you're going to use Thrivecart, Discus for the chat bots, every other technical tool that goes into building out a 100-page event like a multi-day virtual summit. You want to map that all out beforehand. And then, of course, start building it, spend months and months and months building it, and then pray nothing breaks and you linked all your links correctly, which you didn't. I can already tell you that. There's no way anybody who builds out a multi-day summit on WordPress, there is always something that breaks or links that are not correct. I know because I've done it. So how long does it take? If you've never done this type of thing before, you can plan on it taking roughly 4 months of nonstop. We're talking like 30 plus hours a week of creation for at least 3 to 4 months. We're talking 2, 3, 4 months, depending on how much time you can put into it. And that's not counting the interviews, which will most likely take another 1 to 2 months of time at about 15 to 20 hours a week. So if you run more than one of these, so if this is your first one, that's about the time frame. You're looking at about 30 hours a week for most likely 3 months, probably more like 4 months, plus another 1 to 2 months of interviews at about 15 to 20 hours a week. Obviously, if you can stack out 50, 60, 70-hour weeks, you may be able to shorten this down. Now, if you run more than one of these, you can always reuse your original, like you can clone it. It's going to save you about a third of the time, but you're still going to have a lot of time because even if you clone it, you still have to edit everything inside of it. You've essentially just cloned the pages, so you don't have to go and build out the pages, but you will have to go back in and edit it. Edit the colors, edit the images, edit the information, edit the speakers, and edit the links so the links make sense, all of that. So you really only save yourself about a third of the time having run more than one. And again, I'm telling you this all from experience. My first summits were all done like this. So how much does it cost? Obviously this should be much, much cheaper, right? If you're building out yourself, you don't have a consultant, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're someone who knows, someone that knows how to do this, you're probably going to have your specific tools that you want to use and, that you've already got and how you want to build this out. But for somebody, so your cost might be a little bit different, but I'm talking to you, the summit host, as someone who's looking to run their first summit. So from my experience, when I built my first summit, I had 7 softwares and 26 plugins all Frankenstein together. It cost me roughly about $66,700 in total for everything. And I was able to streamline the process after I created the first one down to about $2,500 to $4,000 because I could reuse a lot of the same tools I'd already paid for. So your first time doing it with none of the plugins, none of the softwares, you're probably looking at about $7,000. And then if you're rerunning more summits using that same strategy, it'll probably knock your summits down to about $2,500 or maybe even less. But again, that's like a longer term play. So what are the downsides? One, probably the biggest, it takes forever. It really, really, really takes a ton of time. It's going to take you a lot of time. And if you're trying to do any other projects, forget it. Your summit is either going to be delayed or postponed, or you're not going to get the other projects done. Honestly, and this is real talk here, it typically doesn't look nearly as professional. I can tell you my first several summits looked like a third grader built them, even though I spent hundreds and hundreds of hours. And the reason is, just like you, just like me, I'm not a web designer. I'm not a UX person on what looks good and what doesn't look good. If that's you, maybe you're going to be better. But for most of us, it's not nearly going to look as professional. It still costs a decent amount of money for the first one, and 100% sure you will have tech issues. I don't care if you've run these before. This is like the 10th summit you're doing, there is always tech issues, links not working, links being incorrectly linked, to areas, etc. So what are the upsides? The upsides is really, the main one is you have total control and customization. You can make it exactly how you want. You can put whatever other little tool you want in there. I know with Virtual Summit software, we are constantly being asked, well, can we use this tool? Can I put this on the landing page? Can I use this in my opt-in this? Can I use this? Well, honestly, the only way you're going to be able to use every single tool you want no matter which way you do it, whether you're having a consultant build it out for you, you're having a generic tool, or even using Virtual Summit software, the only way you're going to be able to use every single plugin and little feature tool you want is if you build it custom yourself. So that's real talk for you. Also, the upsides are if you plan to run more than one, you've got the framework kind of already set out for you. So what should I know or ask? What you should know or ask, again, I really do not recommend this option unless, one, you are super skilled and knowledgeable in WordPress creation or in kind of tech or development. Two, you have no other option. Like, honestly, if you have no other option where there's, I mean, which is not the case, but like if it was financially, like you just have no other option, then this would probably be a good fit. But again, there's always Virtual Summit software, which, I mean, again, you couldn't pay me enough to go back and do it like this. When you have Virtual Summit software, go back and build it from scratch. And again, I've done at least 10 summits built from scratch. You couldn't pay me not to go back and to go back and build it from scratch when there's Virtual Summit software available. All right, so that rounds that out. Let's look at the third option. So how to build out a Virtual Summit using a generic tool or software like ClickFunnels, Kajabi, or Thinkific. And of course, there's others as well, but those are probably the three most common ones that I've seen, that I've used, that I see other people using. So this is probably overall the most commonly done way for people to host summits. It's just usually because they go to a coach or a consultant or someone they know, and they said, hey, use this funnel or this course building tool to host your summit on. So that's usually what happens. Somebody says, hey, I want to do a virtual summit. You go to a coach or you go to someone who's done a summit before, and they say, hey, this is how you should do it. Here's my affiliate link. Click this, go build it out, and I get paid. I mean, that's honestly what happens a lot of times. Most people that are advising you to use one of these other tools are getting an affiliate commission if you sign up and use those tools, which is cool. Nothing wrong with that. Like, I've got affiliate links as well. All I'm saying is you need to look at your options here. But it is by far one of the most commonly ways to host a summit. Now, with that being said, it's much, much cheaper and easier to do it like this than paying a consultant or doing it from scratch. So that's why this is probably the most commonly done way. So what's this process look like? Typically, it's one of two ways. First one, you're being referred by someone who gets an affiliate commission. They will typically, so like a coach, a Virtual Summit coach, they're typically going to have some kind of template or generic forms that you can download to use to template out your summit. So if you're with a coach or somebody that's referring you to use this software because they get an affiliate commission, they probably got a reason or something that is enticing to use. So that'll have templates already built out. Still going to have to go in and build everything. However, option number two is you just try and do it on your own, and you have to figure out how to build it yourself. And maybe you already have access to one of these tools already. So either way, it looks like this. You sign up for these tools, most commonly like ClickFunnels, Thinkific, Kajabi. They're going to have the pages, they're going to have pages that can be built, like landing pages. So you need to build a landing page. You're going to need to build out your 80 some odd speaker pages, your sales pages, all the upsell pages, your thank you pages, your home pages, all those pages we talked about. So you need to build those all out. You're going to have links for all of those pages. So when your summit goes live, you got to make sure all of these links for all of these different pages go together. So the incentive here is it's much easier to build a page than it is to do it like in a tool like ClickFunnels or Thinkific than it is to build it from scratch in WordPress. So that's easier. However, you're still left with you have to make sure it all fits together. So you need to make sure those links are all going to the right place. So you got these 100 some odd links. When your summit goes live, you also have to figure out how to turn on and off the links to the pages that they shouldn't have access yet. So like essentially, well, we'll get into that in a second, but this usually requires going into every speaker page for that day of that summit and activating the link, and then at the end of the day, deactivating the link. So you can do this, you'll have to do this every day for 3 to 14 days, twice a day for up to 80 speakers. Again, and pray you didn't miss anything. Trust me, you did. Everyone always does. It's just real talk. You definitely missed the link, and you will find out about it, because when that happens and you generate, typically if you're generating anywhere from, if you've got several thousand leads, and you miss a link, trust me, you're going to generate several hundred to several thousand emails from attendees complaining. I know, I've had that happen multiple times. So at the end, you're gonna drive all your traffic to the sales page and try and generate sales. Then after it's over, you have to duplicate everything. Like if you're really trying to be ethical so that the original attendees still can't see or access all the recordings, you're gonna give the new duplicated version to those who upgraded and paid for the recordings. Another way would be to shut it all down, take all the presentations, put them on a membership platform, and give those who paid access to the membership platform. Or the lazy way is to shut it all down and give those who paid a link to your Dropbox with all the videos. Tip, don't do this, okay? Don't do that. That's more than just lazy. You won't get people to pay for your next summit. So anyways, like just to reiterate how this works, okay? So you're building out all these pages in these tools, which makes it easier to build out the pages, but you still have to link everything together. And the one thing you're probably not thinking about is these are not built for actual summits. These are built for landing pages, sales pages, things like that. So what ends up happening, the way a summit really runs, and again, if you go to episode 3, you're going to hear more about that. But if the way a summit it runs is every day there's a certain amount of speakers, and that day the attendees get access to those speakers. They don't get access to any of the future days because the summit is run as if it was a real conference or real summit. So day 1, they get access to day 1 speaker. At the end of day 1, those speaker sessions are closed. Day 2 opens. At the end of day 2 closes. Day 3 opens. Now on every single day, you've got 5, 10, 20 different speakers going. Each of those have links to speaker pages. So the problem here is, how do you turn on and off the links to allow people to just see, the first day speakers? And then after it's over, how do you prevent them from going back and still seeing those speaker pages? Because if they can still see the speakers after the days are already passed, they have zero incentive to upgrade and pay for ongoing access. So that's the big problem. And we definitely have interviews coming with people who have run summits on tools like this because they didn't really have any other option back in the day. And they will tell you specifically that the hardest, most difficult part with doing a summit like this, keeping track of all the links, making sure they're shut down and turned on. So overall, this is honestly, for the cost, one of the best ways to run a summit if the virtual summit software didn't exist. So this has been the evolution. It went from WordPress to using a generic tool, and then of course there's virtual summit software now. But how long does this take? So typically this will take roughly as long as it did on WordPress. I mean, that sounds counterintuitive, but you still have to go through and build everything. It's just going to look more professional. I mean, it's going to take a little bit longer on WordPress because, some of these tools will have the things already placed in the pages when you start to build the pages, but you're going to have to restructure everything. It's just going to be a much more user-friendly and won't look like a third grader build it. Or maybe it will, I guess, because I've never actually seen your page building skills. So there is always that too. So in general, you're looking at probably 1 to 2 months of solid work to build out your summit at a minimum, putting in about 20 to 30 hours a week, and then another couple months of interviews and marketing. So it really does, it may save you, again, let's just say on a optimistic side, about a third of the time. Now, obviously, if you're paying for a coach, then it may save you even less time because they've already got templates. But remember, those templates are being used by every other one of their students. So how much does it cost? Costs are much more reasonable here. This is definitely a good benefit. So you're probably looking at about $1,000 to $3,500 of upfront costs and about $600 to $1,000 of reoccurring costs, depending on what tools and additional fancy softwares you add into it. Now, again, I'm talking to you as if this is your first time running a virtual summit and you're going to go out and get these tools. If you've already got these tools, the cost may be included in this, but still, there's going to be things you're going to need for your virtual summit that you don't have for the other things if you want it to look good and be successful. Of course, I should have said this from the beginning. There's always ways to skimp, and cut costs, but your summit success is going to show as well. Anytime we really kind of try and trim the edges and just go with the cheap or easy way, your summit's not going to stand out. It's probably not going to function correctly or properly or as well as it could have, and your results are going to show for it. So if you're getting this from coaches or, a coach's program, you should also factor in another $1,000 to $2,000 for their paid online program. So you may go, oh, well, I got the templates, but you're also adding an extra $2,000 to get those templates. But still, you're going to need software. So it's going to cost you anywhere from about $1,000 to $3,500 plus your coaching fees if you're using a coach. And then afterwards, you're going to have reoccurring fees. So after your summit ends, unless you go through and cancel everything, you're looking at about $600 to $1,000 of reoccurring costs. All right, so what are the downsides? It's still, even though it's easier and less, it's still a small investment. You still have to build it all, it's going to take you a lot of time. Things are going to break and not work. It always happens. I mean, just know that it's so much better to prepare for that than to not expect it. Like, links are not going to be linked correctly. You're going to have mistakes where you put the wrong link somewhere. It's going to happen, I promise you. It won't look or function great because it's built on something that's not really designed for summits. Like, that is a downside. If you're building a summit on a course software, you'll have something to send people to, but it's not going to look or feel like a real summit. If you're building a summit on a landing page builder, it's going to be great for the landing page, but it's not going to function or act like a real summit. It'll get the job done. This is better than doing nothing, I promise you that. But this is one of the downsides. So the functionality is not going to feel or look perfect. It'll work, but trying to do it on a summit on a course software or landing page just doesn't function the way a summit is supposed to be run. What are the upsides? Much quicker than building it custom. I mean, it's still going to take time, but trying to build it custom, don't do that. Don't build it custom. It's going to be cheaper than building it custom or going to a consultant. It's going to look better than building it yourself unless you're a talented, skilled WordPress designer. It lets you create a summit, which will greatly benefit you and your business. So at the bottom line is, this is going to let you build a summit, which you should do. Like, you should have a summit. Summit should be a part of your business strategy and business plan. So what should I know or ask? Honestly, there's nothing super negative to this approach. Like, I've done the same. I've used this. My progression went from building them custom on WordPress to using Thinkific and ClickFunnels to now using them all on Virtual Summit software. The only real thing to know is if you're going to build a summit on one of these tools for the same or less cost, you could have just built it and run it quicker and cheaper and better functionality on Virtual Summit software. That's really the only clause I need to say with that. So how to get started? Again, you can go to our show notes over at podcast.virtualsummits.com/4, and we're going to have the link to all these tools like Thinkific, ClickFunnels, so you can get started by clicking those links. All right, we're moving into the final aspect of this episode, which brings me to probably my favorite part, which is using the Virtual Summit software. Most of you are going like, Mark, why bother even telling us about the other options? Virtual Summit software is probably the best way to run a virtual summit. Now, I can agree with you on that. However, every single one of you that are listening to this episode are at a different part of your journey. And I am not naive enough to think that there aren't some of you that need the other options. So Virtual Summit software is here for you, and I recommend it, and I believe it's probably going to be the best option for most of you. However, some of you out there probably need and can get better results by using a consultant. So I just want to make sure that if you're going to use a consultant, you know the risks and you ask the right questions so that you minimize the risk that's going to happen and increase your success. Same on the other platforms. At the end of the day, I want you to be successful, and I want you to run the most successful virtual summit you can. So let's jump into Virtual Summit software. So this honestly just makes hosting a virtual summit easier than ever before. It's the only software designed 100% specifically for running summits, which means every aspect about it is ideal for summit hosting and creation. And I got to reiterate that it's not built to run a webinar. It's not built to run courses. It's not built to be a funnel software. It is 100% built to be the best option and the best platform at running summits. And you should know that if you're looking at a platform to consider using it for your summit, if it does anything else other than run summits, like if it does a webinar, if it's like we do summits and webinars, All that means is that they've tried to morph two things into one, and one of those is not going to be done perfectly. So our summit software is built for that. It's literally changed the game when it comes to summits. The power that used to be reserved for those already successful entrepreneurs with big budgets, teams, and resources have now been given to every one of us. You don't need a team. You don't need any tech skill. You don't need a big budget or resources. You can literally have a summit up and ready to launch in a matter of hours, not months. Now, a little history, because I love this, a little history on Virtual Summit software. As I had mentioned, I've been running summits for about 4 years now. If you've listened to episode 1, you know a little bit more about me. If you listened to episode 3, I believe, you were able to get the history on summits in general. But I've been running summits for a while now. I've been involved in about 25 summit creations, and that is increasing every quarter. And I used to build them by hand, painfully, might I add. And after a few years of wishing there was an easier way to run summits, however, summits were so powerful, no matter how painful they were, I still continued to run them because they yielded such a tremendous result. And again, not just leads and finances and authority and networking, the impact we can create in the world from summits is tremendous. So, but after years of wishing that there was an easier way to run summits, I finally found the number. I decided to take it on. So essentially, I was like, you can create a webinar with no tech skill and have it up and ready to run in a relatively short amount of time. Why can't we do that with summits? So I decided I was going to take this on and I was going to build this. So I went out and I found the #1 development company in the US, and we set out to build the perfect solution to hosting a summit. But we didn't just jump in and start building a summit, and we didn't just go, well, Mark knows how to run summits, so let's just take all of his knowledge and do it. We actually started out by doing a product discovery where we interviewed 50 of the best summit creators, asking them their pain points and their solutions to those pain points. We found out that there was actually a massive pain in the same area across the board, and not a single solution available to accurately and effectively solve it. So then we set out for the next year, building what would become the #1 tool for hosting a summit. It literally makes the process so easy that everyone can quickly and simply run a successful summit. And at the recording of this episode, we've had over 150 summits run on this software, and that increases every week and every month. So what's the process look like? So what's it look like if you want to use the Virtual Summit software? Well, first off, you just head over to virtualsummits.com, and you can sign up for a free trial. So you can test it out for free. You're going to click, after you're inside of it, you're going to click host your first summit. And then you just go through and you type in your summit details. There's a guide that takes you each step. Step 1, fill out your summit details. Step 2, build out your landing page. Step 3, recruit your speakers. And it does every single aspect for you. Honestly, it's type and click. So you go to the landing page builder, you choose a template, and this has been customized. We have templates customized from the top 100 most successful summits ever run. So we didn't just like, oh, let's just think we can come up with a template. We chose our templates and designed them from the most successful summits that have been run. So those templates there are designed to optimize and convert. You fill out your information you want on the landing page. You then go to the speaker section. You start recruiting the speakers. You just put in their name and their email. The speakers are going to get a request. They click the link. They fill out all their information. It's auto-populated throughout the entire summit. So all the speaker pages are automatically created. The information the speakers put in are automatically filled into this. Literally, this part alone will save you 25 to 40 hours minimum of work because it just does it automatically for you. You decide what levels you want inside your summit. Like, if, you have your free level, you have your VIP, your elite. You attach your email software, whatever email software you're using. You attach it to that membership with one click of a button. And now all the attendees that opt in for your summit, they go into your email list automatically, and you can set up your email sequences. You can drag and drop those speakers very quickly into the summit scheduler to set who you want on which day, and poof, it's done. It's automatically, everything's all set up. That's it. Like, it's all done for you. Like, our summit then your summit's ready to collect leads, and it runs automatically without you having to do anything. I mean, and it collects the cash generated for the summit for you and puts it directly into your bank account. So like literally, it runs the summit for you. You don't have to worry about the links working. You don't have to worry about if the links are collected. You don't have to unlock and lock anything. The summit software does that automatically. So when I say it makes hosting a summit easier than ever before, like I mean easier than ever before. So how long does it take? Honestly, I've created summits, full summits, in under an hour. I mean, if you've ever done a virtual summit, you should be like mouth completely open right now, because when I was saying 50 to 100 hours minimum of work, that's what it is. You can have a summit up and ready to rock in under an hour. Now, my partner in my other company, she runs one-day summits at least once a quarter. Like, she loves this one-day summit formula that I've created. She runs these constantly in her business. And she's probably the least techie person you'll ever meet in your life. I mean, like, I had to teach her how to use text messaging on her phone. Like, that's how untechy she is. And she can have a summit up and ready to run in a matter of 2 hours. If she can do that, trust me, anyone can do it. Now, obviously, your first time in the software might take you a few hours, to figure out where things are at, how to, flow through it. I mean, we have an entire guides, we have training videos, we have how-tos, like all of that there. But no matter how you look at it, a few hours versus the alternative of 100+ hours, I mean, no matter how you look at it, it's pretty awesome. So how much does it cost? This is the insane part. It does not cost $10,000. It does not cost $5,000. It doesn't even cost $1,000. The highest offering that's available in the Virtual Summit software, fully unlocked, unlimited summits with the Ever Summit feature, is the exact same price as any of those other software solutions we were previously talking about, like ClickFunnels, Thinkific. It's the same or less price as the other options you were even considering doing that weren't built for it. And it's even less, for example, if you're using like the standard option. So it's really just a no-brainer. So what are the downsides? Now, honestly, there really are very few downsides, if any. Like, it's just the case of it. It's built for summits. Now, if I really had to try and make and think to make something that I would say in the terms of the software, probably the only real downside I could say is it's relatively young, which means we don't have thousands of features built out yet, but it does every single thing you need to do to run a summit. So it's relatively young. It's actually kind of a positive, really, when you think about it, because every week the Virtual Summit software is releasing new and cool features. And the people that are in the Summit software right now, they're the ones that are requesting the features, which they're the ones driving the direction that the Virtual Summit software goes and what we create. So it's really kind of cool. But at the moment of this recording of this episode, probably the biggest downside I could say if I had to pick something for the Virtual Summit software is there's really not as much customization options as there will be. So that's one of the only things I can say. Like, you can have everything done and ready to run in a couple hours, but there's not as many customization options. For example, if you were wanting to do it on WordPress, but those are coming. And that's probably the only downside I could say. Now, what are the upsides? I mean, essentially everything. It's cheaper. It's easier. It's faster. There's less tech problems. There's less tech in general to host a summit. It's designed specifically for hosting and running summits. So everything about it is seamless and the way a summit should run. So what should I know or ask? Well, there's one other thing I should have mentioned, which we'll cover it right now. It's called the Ever Summit feature, which is exclusive to Virtual Summit software. And essentially, with one click of a button, the software will automatically rerun your summit as if it was live, ongoing forever. Now let's have a quick word from our sponsor.
With the Ever Summit feature inside the Virtual Summit software, you can rerun your summit as if it were live, ongoing forever with one click of a button. This now lets you continue to use your summit forever, bringing in qualified and engaged leads every month into your business. Get more information at virtualsummit.com.
What's so cool about this is that human nature has us subconsciously think that anything that is old is no longer good. Even though you and I know that those videos that you recorded last week are still good, people who see that it's over will choose not to opt in for it. So the Ever Summit feature allows anyone who comes to the landing page, like any of your attendees that come to this landing page to see that the summit is run next week, for example. You can choose. You want it run weekly, twice a month, once a month, whatever. It's run next week. They opt in. Then the software processes them. They automatically unlocks and locks each day's and sessions appropriately and correctly. And then when it's over, it locks it down again. And if that attendee tries to go back to the landing page to just sneak in and rewatch it again, it shows them the summit's ended and they have to upgrade to get access. But all new traffic that goes to the landing page sees that the summit starts next week. So it essentially allows your summit to become the beginning of your customer journey and allows you to scale your business quicker. So it's going to be good forever. Like, one of the worst parts about summits in general is you put a lot of time, energy, and effort into them, and then when they're over, they're just done. Now, usually what you do in any of the other options, and we talk about this more in episode 3, but most of the options, like, you just have to sell them. And you know, sometimes they're great for that, but it's not what they were designed for. They're designed mainly to be a lead generating tool. So with the Ever Summit feature now, they remain to be a lead generator, and you can use more permanent strategies. So instead of just using paid advertising, you can do blogs, you can do podcasts, YouTube videos that will stay live forever and constantly drive traffic to your summit. So how do I get started? You head over to virtualsummits.com and you can sign up for a free trial, test it out yourself. Get started building out your next summit. So in closing here, my summit hosts out there listening in, there are no necessarily right or wrong answers to these options, okay? My goal here was to shed an in-depth light into the options that there are, what's great about them, and what's not so great about them. It's up to you to decide which option is best for you and your situation. No matter what, you're a summit host, and you have a message that needs to get out to the world. So don't wait. Choose whatever option makes the most sense to you and is the easiest to get started, and just start moving forward. I'm going to constantly provide you with my best insight, my information, some gems for our summit hosts and summit heroes. I'm going to have interviews with some of the top summit hosts, summit sponsors, summit speakers, consultants, and coaches and marketers. And I'm going to squeeze out their top insights and secrets so that you get them right here on the Virtual Summit Podcast. And I'm going to constantly and continually do that for free. All I'm asking you is to help me here. First, subscribe to this podcast and leave me a 5-star review. This really helps me be able to reach more summit hosts and help them, which is the overall goal of this podcast, is to help more summit hosts be successful and raise the overall quality and standard of summits. The second thing I would ask you is please, please, please share this podcast with anyone you know who's done or wants to do a summit. That's all I ask. I'm going to give you the best insights and knowledge I can. Just all I ask is subscribe to this podcast, leave a 5-star review, and then share it with a friend. So some of you want to get in touch with me. I'm always looking for feedback. So if you have that, please send it my way. If you have questions, you can send them to me. And if I start getting enough questions, we'll start doing a monthly Q&A episode. Now, if you want to be a guest on this podcast, please reach out, let me know. And if you know someone I should interview, please put me in touch with them. And you can do all of that through our email, podcast@virtualsummits.com. Again, that's our email, podcast@virtualsummits.com. Now, don't forget to head over to the show notes, which is podcast.virtualsummits.com/4. You're going to have links to all the episodes here, everything we talked about. Additionally, you can check out our resources area where we have our one-day summit starter guide. We have our virtual summit framework. I got my plug-and-play guides there, as well as there's access to the free trial virtual summit software. So you can get all of that over there. Now, summit hosts, I want to end this episode by saying, I believe in you and you can do this. Summits are by far the most powerful way to quickly grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and create an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. So don't get caught up in analysis paralysis, because the world needs to hear your message and there are people who are waiting for you to help them. So just get started. Imperfect action is always better than doing nothing. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Now don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on the Virtual Summit Podcast. Head over to the show notes to check out all the links and resources from this episode, and be sure to grab your free trial of the Virtual Summit software.
Now, I want to end this episode by saying to all the Summit hosts listening right now, I believe in you, and you can do this. Summits are by far one of the most powerful ways to quickly grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and most importantly, make an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. So don't get caught up in analysis paralysis, because the world needs to hear your message, and there are people who are waiting for you to help them. So just get started, because imperfect action is always better than no action. Thank you, and see you on the next episode.